if you've communicated via email with a client, doesn't mean that you have to give all clients, including all of those in treatment already, a privacy notice in addition to informed consent forms. Are there any other obligations? If you've communicated with your client, then you've triggered HIPAA. Okay. Now, I need to tell you that there are some disagreements about my interpretation. The folks at NASW and APA tend to have my view of things. The CANF attorneys had the perspective that if you don't do billing vis-a-vis the internet, then you need not worry about complying with HIPAA. I disagree with that perspective based upon what the language says in the statute and in the regulations. However, with that warning, my strong sense is that if I engage in an email interaction with a client, something as innocuous as rescheduling an appointment for next week that the client has to cancel because they've fallen ill, then I have just triggered my requirement to comply with HIPAA. Now that I've triggered that, you know, I use perhaps a little bit of an odd analogy here or metaphor, but I consider those of us who are not required to comply with HIPAA living in the Garden of Eden. And as soon as we send one email to a client or receive one, we have a transaction, we have now bitten the apple and we've been thrown out. We now have to comply with HIPAA throughout our whole practice. Yes, now you have to give privacy notices to all of your current clients, and you have a whole host of obligations. Let me just summarize for you some of the obligations that we've got under HIPAA, okay? And so, yeah, if we do email, we are taking a bite out of the apple, we're thrown out. We've got to comply, okay? There are requirements for us under HIPAA include a number of things. We have to develop privacy policies and procedures. What that means is we have to write down what we do to maintain privacy, how we maintain the records of our clients, who gets the access to information. When you're a private practitioner, it's not that complicated, but it does require some thoughtful responses and thoroughness on our part. It also requires us to give notice of privacy rights to clients and notice to clients about their rights of access to their records. We have to also adopt safeguards under the security rule. The safeguards, we have to assure that the records that we're transmitting or maintaining in an electronic form are secure and safe in transmission and in storage. And we have to document the security steps that we've taken, as those of you who recall I talk about in the web lecture earlier. We also have to obtain what are called authorizations whenever we're going to release psychotherapy notes. We used to call this a release of information. It's basically the same thing. However, HIPAA has some extra requirements, and so we must comply with HIPAA. Those are some examples of the types of duties that we have, other types of duties we have if we have been cast out of the garden, okay, if we have to comply with HIPAA.